55 Champ Shack Bird coming at you live for NSPN NexGen Sports. Go like and follow NSPN for total coverage of all team and combat sports, live shows, plus exclusive player interviews and unprecedented sports content creation.
Aren't you loving life in Tampa Bay? Nothing like being defending Super Bowl champs, Stanley Cup champions, American League champions. This is Outkick. Join me every Sunday morning at 10. Let's talk our teams in the hottest sports market in the country. Never too early to talk Buccaneers or check in on all the teams in Tampa Bay. It will be your best hour of sports. The Outkick Show, powered by Guerrilla Marketing. Sunday mornings at 10 on 102.5 The Bone. Sports media has evolved. Introducing NSPN NexGen Sports, your number one source for all team and combat sports. Live shows, breaking news, esports tournaments, and interactive sports content like never before. Like and follow NSPN on our Facebook page for your chance at this month's fan giveaway contest. And tune in every Sunday at noon for exclusive video access to my Outkick Show interview. NSPN, Next Gen Sports. Outkick here. I have to tell you about my amazing pampered experience at Daniela LaCorey Styling Studio. First of all, I love what she did with my hair, but it's the entire experience that truly sets her apart. You walk in and chances are she's playing your favorite music because she matters. She pours you your favorite adult beverage because she matters. It's gone from haircut to a truly relaxing time only at Daniela LaCorey Styling Studio. Haircuts, men and women, full spot treatments, hair color. Get it all with Daniela. Check her out on Instagram at Daniela LaCorey or book her on the Booksy app at ladybarberdaniela.booksy.com. Tell her how Keck sent you and get $10 off your first service, plus neck and shoulder massage. Daniela LaCorey Styling Studio. Outkick here from my friends at Family Lawn, Pest, Handyman, and Housekeeping. I'm all about saving money and saving time, especially when it comes to maintaining my home. These people are 4-in-1. One provider for my lawn, pest, handyman, and housekeeping. I don't have to call 4 different companies, receive 4 different estimates, have 4 different strangers come into my home and write 4 different checks. I simply call Roger and Paula at Family Lawn and Pest. Sign up for a year and leave the honeydews to them. Get a free estimate. Call 813-526-8111. That's 813-526-8111. Tell them Al Keck sent you and get $250 off your first year or 20% off your first month. It's Family Lawn and Pest and so much more. Medical marijuana made easy. See if you pre-qualify for your Florida medical marijuana card free of charge, 100% risk, obligation, and judgment-free with Fast Track Cannabis Clinics of America. You're talking Tampa Bay's #1 choice for compassionate care with business professionals. Discreetly begin your road to relief by dialing 813-358-CARD or visit www.mycannabiscard.com. That's 813-358-2273. And make sure to tell them that Al Keck sent you for $30 off new patient enrollment. Ask about military and senior discounts. Fast Track Cannabis Clinics of America. With uncertainty at an all-time high, securing what matters most has never been more important for your home or your office. Prevent disaster and make life easier. Try a security and home automation system from Alarm Engineers, Inc., Tampa's trusted leader for more than 30 years. State-of-the-art security systems, award-winning monitoring, and now full-spectrum smart home solutions. Alarm Engineers, Inc. has everything your home and office could possibly need and will work with any budget. Book a free security or smart home consultation today. Call 813-948-4000. That's 813-948-4000. And get your first month free by telling them Al Keck sent you. Alarm Engineers, Inc.
This is the battlefield. This is the uncontrolled chaos of professional football. This is the brutal violence that can give an athlete everything and can cost almost everything. This is the game that for 23 years defined Randy Grimes, and the game that almost killed him. Randy Grimes was a college All-American and a 10-year veteran of the NFL. Through documented concussions, 6 knee surgeries, joint replacement, shoulder and tricep surgeries, and countless broken and fractured bones, the warrior in Randy trudged forward, suffering in silence.
You know, I was desperate to stay out on that field and not let injuries put me in the training room or sideline me and give somebody else an opportunity to get my position.
The excitement never stopped, and neither did the pain. The collisions on the football field can have a devastating effect on the body. Players can easily justify taking a handful of pain pills to stay in the game, to stay in the practice field, to stay out of the doctor's office, to keep from being replaced. Call it survival. Call it warrior mentality. Call it desperation. Call it anything but what it really is: addiction.
The injuries were getting worse and the addiction was getting worse. And I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop taking the pain medication on my own.
Randy took that suffer in silence mentality and those injuries with him when he left the game. And over the next 20 plus years, continued to justify taking the handfuls of pills daily.
When I left the game, when I took that addiction into my retired life, when I didn't have the enablers around me or the ways to justify it, then that's when it really spiraled out of control.
I began to see, his personality changing, the way he dealt with things. Of course, money was missing. He lost his job. We lost our home. Everything started just spiraling out of control.
I can't tell you how many things I had to lose, how many relationships, how many homes, how many jobs. And I still couldn't stop. As bad as my life was getting, I knew why. I just couldn't stop doing it.
On September 22nd, 2009, Randy flew from Houston to Fort Lauderdale and was driven an hour north to a West Palm Beach facility, where he fell out of the car and crawled on all fours the remaining 40 feet through the door, in full-blown withdrawal and sicker than humanly possible. Randy was broken and ready to surrender, desperate to get his life back.
People often ask me to describe the process that I went through that day. And the only way that I can do it is to say that over that 20 plus years of addiction, God had plenty of opportunities to open the gates of heaven and let me in. What he chose to do was open the gates of hell and let me out.
And that's why Randy does what he does now, to help open the gate for someone else, giving back this gift of hope that was given to him.
If being a former professional athlete gets me in the door somewhere and helps somebody, helps saves a life or helps plant a seed in somebody, then that's what it was all about.
Helping others that are desperate, helping those that are broken, planting the seeds of recovery in the shattered guys that he played with and the guys that he played against, or anyone looking for a way out of that deep, dark pit of despair called addiction. Pain in life is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Randy chose not to suffer anymore. He made it. Many don't.
My greatest accomplishment was crawling in the door that night. It was the hardest thing that I ever did, and it was the most rewarding. This is such a great opportunity for us to continue to collaborate and work together and help these guys get their lives back, just like they helped me get my life back. This process works, guys. And like I said, it's a beautiful thing to watch. So thank you for having me, and thank you.
Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another edition of the Evolution of Sports Talk Television live on NSPN. And of course, I love St. Pete. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. And how do we start off the edition of the Sports Web on this Friday night? Bring your passion, bring your excitement. Just don't bring any nonsense. On tonight's show, we'll have very special guest, former Tampa Bay Buccaneers center Randy Grimes on with us, talking about his story, talking about Tom Brady, your Tampa Bay Buccaneers from last year, the future, and who knows, maybe he'll take some questions. Then after that, we'll discuss the comments from Bruce Arians today and Tom Brady. Not all rainbows and unicorns, if you will, about today's practice. And then we'll also get into some around the NFL topics already, injuries plaguing some teams with the Dallas Cowboys and their quarterback situation, the Indianapolis Colts. And then, of course, we'll take your phone calls, 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. So without further ado, I had to get this guy on. I've been trying to get him on my show after watching Dark Side of Football. Of course, I grew up watching him with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, former starting center for your Tampa Bay Buccaneers from 1983 to 1992, Mr. Randy Grimes. Welcome to the Evolution of Sports Talk Television, my friend. How you doing tonight?
I am great. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Absolutely. And like I said, after watching Dark Side of the Football and just doing more research and then also knowing your name, because I've been a Buccaneer fan since I was 8 years old. And just to give you an idea, I'll go ahead and age myself. I'm 42. So I remember watching you. I remember watching a lot of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have one of your former teammates on here before, and a Ricky Reynolds. So to me, this is a Friday night flashback. And I got to ask you, what are your thoughts about Tampa Bay? Of course, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning the Super Bowl last year with Tom Brady in their home stadium. Just unbelievable, right?
Oh, it's unbelievable. And you know, when they signed him, I didn't know really what he was going to be able to bring to the team physically, but I knew that he was going to bring that air of confidence about him that, you know, it's so hard to find. You know, as an offensive lineman, you want to go back when things are tough on the field and things aren't going your way. You want to go back to the huddle and you want to see somebody that's been in charge or somebody that is in charge, but also somebody that's been there before and knows how to pull you out of that situation. So, you know, whether or not he came with a stronger arm or not, it really didn't make any difference to me. It's what he brought to the team as far as confidence. and in that huddle. And that made all the difference last year. And, now they've got another Super Bowl under their belt. This team has been together. They played together last year, so they're just going to carry that forward, that momentum. So it's just a matter, I like the quarterback, obviously. I like the receivers. I'm impressed with the offensive line. The defense is, it goes without saying how great those guys are going to be, and they're all back. So it's a matter of just staying healthy, and having a break or two here and there. And, man, I really like their chances this year.
Yeah, I tell you right now, I mean, you have to be impressed. First team that's ever done this to bring back all their 22 starters since the 1979 Pittsburgh Steelers. That was week 1 starters. The Super Bowl starters, 1977 Oakland Raiders. Consequently, both of those teams won the Super Bowl. So you would assume with them doing what they did to set themselves up that they would be the favorite. Of course, you wouldn't know it by hearing BA's comments today and Tom Brady, but it certainly seems like they're very much taking this seriously, where whatever they did last year really doesn't matter. It's about 2021, right?
It's right. It's a new year. And I never had that luxury. In the 10 years that I was in Tampa, I had 5 different head coaches, 6 different offensive line coaches, 6 or 8 different quarterbacks, and a couple different general managers. So, that decade was a revolving door of coaches, players, front office people, and we really never had any consistency at all. So to have your whole team back and every starter in their position, another year under their belt, a championship year at that, there's going to be haters out there. There's guys that are already saying, and they say it every year, that Brady's another year older. He doesn't have it in him anymore. My God, the guy just doesn't do anything but win. And how can you ever doubt that?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I mean, how do you doubt that? In fact, learning about playing through injuries, because we know about your career and how many injuries you had, but what you come to find out about Tom Brady, he's playing through a torn MCL, still throwing 40 touchdowns, still playing in the prime of his career. So in your opinion, do you feel like Brady and this offense can actually be better than they were last year simply because he's going to be healthy and also comfortable in knowing this offense?
Comfortable in knowing the offense, but also, timing with his receivers, and just, again, another year of that confidence and that air of a champion that he brings to the team in the huddle. And, no telling what that guy's doing behind the scenes in team meetings and everything else that we're never going to hear about. But that's what he brings. And hey, I'll take Tom Brady at 50% over most of the quarterbacks in this league.
I'm telling you, we're on with former Buccaneers center Randy Grimes, of course, also the creator of Athletes in Recovery. With that being said, you talked about the 2 Super Bowls for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. In your opinion, what ranks higher, the first one or the second one? For me, it's this one, because not only do you play it through a pandemic, first-year quarterback in Tom Brady, and not only that, in NFL history, Randy, there has never been a team that won a home Super Bowl in their stadium until now.
And not only that, but winning 4 on the road to do it. I mean, that says a lot about your team right there. You get better as the year goes on, but you never expect to be at that level to where you can go out and win those games on the road like they had to do to get to the Super Bowl. So, yeah, winning at Tampa was amazing. It was awesome. It's never been done before. But going out, for me, going out and winning those games on the road to get there were the biggest challenge.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Drew Brees, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, of course, the Washington quarterback, not a big name, but still a pretty good defense. So to me, that's why they also rank. With that being said, you watch this Bucs offensive line. What do you think about the kid Ryan Jensen and how he plays? I mean,
he's nasty. He's nasty. I love it. You
yeah.
know, and that's the part of the game that I watch. I'm sitting there watching the interior lineman play of the game when I watch a football game. And, I love how those guys play. They finish off blocks. They're nasty. They play till the whistle blows and then some. So, it's a young offensive line for the most part. They seem to stay pretty healthy. They seem to play. every position that you put them in very well. And, they seem to be playing together well. And that's something and that's what training camp's all about. It's to get guys that cohesion again, to get them in rhythm with each other again. And, by the time they get out of this camp and when you have bad days at practice during training camp, the coach is going to bitch about it. And it probably does good for the leader of the team to gripe about it too. But it is what it is. I mean, camp is just starting. Guys are just getting back in their rhythm. This is to be expected this time of year. I can remember back when Perkins was here, we were doing 3-a-days over at Tampa University. So I don't have any pity for those guys out there right now, especially when they're not in pads.
How brutal was that to do the 3-a-days? And could you see an NFL coach coming into the National Football League with the attitudes and all the money that the athletes are making? Could you see that ever? I don't even think the Players Association will allow it. So
no, they would walk off. The players would walk off, and then the lawyers would come in.
Right. I mean, you do those 3-a-days. When does it become where your body and you're mentally tired? When does that take effect? Does that take effect, the fourth preseason game? Is that the reason why you saw so many tired bodies out there? I mean, you mentioned it, changing of coaches and changing of this and that. And the other thing, of course, being the undoing of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and now they're consistent. But when you did those 3-a-days, when did your body and then mentally, when did you start to shut down, in your opinion?
Pretty much right away. I mean, that was that old junction boy mentality back there, especially those coaches coming out of Alabama. They had been around Coach Bryant and played under him and coached under him. So, it was that mentality where if you don't practice hard, you're not going to play hard. And so we would wind up just beating the hell out of each other all week long in practice. And hopefully there would be enough left in the tank to play on Sunday. I mean, that was the mentality back then, that North Dallas 40 kind of mentality. And anything goes. And if you don't practice well, then you're not going to play. So we'd go out there and we'd start on Wednesday. We'd start on Wednesday beating the crap out of each other. We'd do it all the way through Saturday, get on a plane and fly to a city and play the Sunday game or even the home games. But, it was just a different game back then. Coaches were able to do different things back then. Players had to do different things back then. And it was just a different mentality. And, thinking back, and that was the only way I ever knew. That's how I practiced at Baylor. That's how we practiced pretty much my entire career at the Bucs. I retired in '93, and we were still practicing like that. We weren't doing 3-a-days in training camp, but even 2-a-days when you're doing padded practices and banging on each other every practice, week after week after week before the season even starts. I never understood that, because we would always show up on Sunday and teams would come in here a lot fresher than we were, especially guys that were playing up in northern states. They would just come in, they were a lot fresher. And we had the advantage of playing in the Tampa sun, but when you start the game already beat up, dehydrated, you don't have much gas left in the tank, then it's not much of an advantage anymore. It's an advantage for the team that comes in the freshest.
It really is. And you look at today's game, do you feel like you could play in today's game and you would actually have an advantage with, your mind and, of course, your body, taking that beat down in the 80s and 90s, of course? Do you feel like now you would have an advantage and, of course, you'd be able to play in today's game?
Yeah, you know what? I think I probably had less injuries because most of the injuries that I received happened in practice, believe it or not. So I think that there would be less injuries. It's already a proven fact that there's less injuries because of the way they practice now. I mean, the thing that the Players Association did years ago when they got all this written into the CBA was the greatest thing that could ever happen for players. It allows guys like Tom Brady to play 20 plus years, even Favre to play 20 years. The rule changes that they made after I left the game have helped guys have extended careers if they choose to. Yeah,
you're exactly right. And you play with some quarterbacks. We already talked about Tom Brady, but You played with a young Steve Young. You played with Steve DeBerg, Vinny Testaverde, and it never worked out there. But go ahead and tell us some of the differences with playing with some of those guys. Let's start out with Steve DeBerg. We'll go Steve Young, and then after that, Vinny.
Well, Steve DeBerg was just great to have on the field. You know, he was a player's quarterback. He was a player's player, and he was always in charge. He was, he was lighthearted enough to where it made you comfortable, but you also knew that he was serious about winning the game and doing his job. And I think Steve did the best that he could with what he had available. Steve Young, man, what a great athlete. The only problem with Steve Young is that as an offensive lineman, you could never pass block for the guy because you never knew where he was. He was supposed to be 7 yards behind you in a pocket, and he'd be out roaming around on the sideline somewhere trying to make a play happen. We actually needed a third eye in the back of our head so we could keep up with him. But he was such a great athlete, and I give him credit for trying to make things happen. And again, there's another guy who was a great athlete like DeBerg, who just didn't have enough to work with, or maybe didn't have the best coaching that he should have. And then Vinny comes in, and Vinny was an athlete's athlete. You know, he had all the tools. Vinny should have had a better career at Tampa Bay, but that was not Vinny's fault. Mm-hmm. You know, Vinny had a lot of different coaches. There was a lot of inconsistency in his coaching that he got. And he never really got a chance. And the guy went on to play, 18 years. He had a great career. I mean, he proved that he was everything that he was supposed to be. He was everything that he was hyped to be. But he just didn't have, with that inconsistency of 5 head coaches and different offensive coordinators every 2 years, new playbooks, new techniques, new terminology. I mean, I was lucky to learn all that stuff as a center and having to get everybody going in the right direction. But to be a quarterback and have that pressure on you, and that was tough. It was tough on Vinny, but he was such a great player.
Yeah, very tough on Vinny, very tough on all those quarterbacks, but especially Vinny Testaverde. I tell you what, we're getting a call right now, so I don't know if you're apt to taking some questions here, but I think there's some fans who want to. Let's go out to Mr. Eric White, which, by the way, runs NSPN. Put that package together. Welcome to the Evolution. You're on with yours truly, along with former Tampa Bay Buccaneer Randy Grimes. What do you have to say, my friend?
Hey, listen, man. First and foremost, I don't run anything, right? I'm nothing if it weren't for you. Peter Blake, be proud of yourself. Randy Grimes, thank you for joining the conversation. You have been a legend, my friend.
Thanks, man.
All of us have looked up to you. I in my own personal battles, my dude, I struggled with opioid dependence for over 9 years. To this day, I have a class action lawsuit against Purdue in an accident that I had. And a lot of people don't understand this verbiage that I'm speaking of, but I know very, very much so about your personal career, Randy, and I respect it. And thank you for doing what you've done. Thank you for taking the
initiative.
100%. The initiative. Thank you for you took the blunt. You took the front of the.
I think we lost him. I don't know what happened there. You there? I think we're lost and losing your phone. Yeah, he's exactly right. I mean, you definitely carried the banner. You were at your lowest point, and then you absolutely came out of it. In fact, we watched that video, and I love this, this comment, this quote from you. I prayed that God would open the doors of heaven and let me in. Instead, he opened the gates of hell and let me out. Go ahead and explain that a little bit.
Well, one thing I was always good at was keeping my mouth shut and listening. And I remember when I got in that locker room in 1983 at one Buc place, my locker was right next to Leroy Selman. And he was the first real, like legend, somebody that I had looked up to, somebody that I had watched on TV, somebody that I wanted to have a career like, somebody that, was a role model for me. But I remember my first conversation with him, and the first thing I learned was that football was not a game anymore. It was a job now. And the second thing that I learned from Leroy was you do whatever you have to stay out on that field, because you don't want to be that guy who's always in the training room, or that guy who's always on the injury report, or that guy who's always missing practice, or that guy that's always in line to see the doctor. You don't want to be that guy, because that was a reputation you were never going to get away from in what was sure to be a short NFL career. So what did doing whatever I had to stay out on the field look like for me was taking handfuls of pain pills every day and practicing through the injuries, through the pain, through the different dinks and nicks and sprains and bruises and everything else that I had, practicing through that, because I didn't want anybody else to be in my position. I didn't want to lose my job to anybody. I was going to stay out there at any cost. And, I looked at it more like a necessary evil. I'm getting it from the team trainers, so it must be okay, right? Or I'm getting it from the team doctors, so it must just be the mentality of the NFL. I mean, I'm getting it from teammates, so it must be okay. So, those are ways that I looked at. That's the ways that I justified it. So I looked at it as a necessary evil to continue to play that game, to continue to be the best center that I could be, to continue to feed my family, to continue to keep trying to be a Pro Bowler or to get that next big contract. And so those are ways that I justified it. But really, like the video said, it was a full-blown addiction. And, it followed me all the way through my career, but it really spiraled out of control when I didn't have those ways to justify it later in my retired life.
And watching that special Dark Side of Football was about playing with pain. You talked about how you were having blackouts and you were still playing. How is that possible, my friend? Because it's not like you weren't. And I'll tell you what, we'll hold off on this phone call here. We'll get back to it in a moment. But how do you play to that? I mean, you were playing at a top level. It's not like you were, explain that, playing through blackouts.
Yeah, I mean, we hear it all the time where somebody drives home drunk from a bar and they don't even remember how they got there, how they wake up the next morning. They don't remember how they drove home, how they got in their driveway. And that's what that necessary evil I was talking about progressed to. I was not only taking opiates to get through practice, but I was taking so many benzodiazepines to get to sleep at night. And, eventually it got to the point to where I was mixing both of them. And that necessary evil, the last 2 years of my career in Tampa, progressed to the point to where I was playing games in complete blackouts. I was taking so much medication before games that I would playing 60, 70, 80 offensive snaps at starting center. Playing a 1 o'clock Sunday game and waking up like at 11 or 12 o'clock that night on the couch at home. And I'd be all beat up and bruised up and dehydrated, my fingernails all torn up and everything that you are after an NFL football game. And I didn't remember any of it. And I played every down at starting center. I'd made line calls. I changed blocking schemes. I got people going in the right direction and didn't remember any of it. And that's the ugly part of it that I've only really started talking about the last few years because, God blessed me with so much ability and talent and the ability to be in the right place at the right time around the right people doing the right thing, football related. And I was fortunate enough to be a second round pick of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I wouldn't trade any of it for the world, but that's a part that's part of the guilt and shame that I carry about the way that I went out.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And I'll tell you right now, it's just an unbelievable story. Eric, if you want to call back in, you can definitely call back in. I guess we had some problems with the phone line, but I think he has a question for you. But you talked about playing with the Leroy Selmon, of course, the first Tampa Bay Buccaneer Hall of Famer. Go ahead and describe that. Talk about playing against the Leroy Selmon and There was a poll just done by Pewter Report, and they actually said Warren Sapp is the greatest Tampa Bay Buccaneer of all time, but I kind of think it's Leroy Selmon. Where do you lie on that?
Yeah, they're two different kinds of players, and Leroy is probably the person that made Randy Grimes the center that he was. Even though he was a defensive end, I had to go against Leroy a lot early in my career on the practice field, a lot of one-on-one stuff, and Leroy's the guy that made me who I was. He taught me everything I knew about being an NFL offensive lineman. And for that, I'm forever grateful for him. Between him and Dave Logan, I couldn't have had better teachers to go against every day in practice. So, Warren Sapp was great, but they're two totally different players. And, Leroy was one of those first guys that was coming off the edge really, really hard. He was one of the first guys coming underneath on stunts. He was slippery, he was sideways, and he was just so clever on the field. He's the kind of guy that would just clean your clock and then help you up with a smile. And, I learned so much about the NFL from Leroy Selmon. And, I remember my first start was at Texas Stadium, my rookie year. And it was at left guard. I'd never played left guard in my life. And something happened to Ray Snell during pregame, and he couldn't start against Randy White. And now you're talking about a Texas boy. I was a Texas kid who grew up watching Randy White, so he was really my legend, a legend to me. And to have to start against him in my first NFL football game, it was a dream come true. That was really a nightmare come true. But, I grew up so much that day, and I learned so much that day from Randy White, but also from Leroy Selmon, because Leroy watched me. He watched me play, and he would help me when I came off the field. It was a pretty cool thing that I have those memories about Leroy.
You always talk about defensive linemen with violent hands. What kind of hands did Leroy have? Like you said, he would help a player up, but he had those violent hands, right? Go ahead and describe him. What made him so good besides obviously his effort? What kind of moves made Leroy Selmon so tough to basically guard in practice? And then talk about Randy White, what the differences are between both of those players.
Yeah, well, Randy was obviously more of a bull rusher type guy, more of a right in your face kind of guy, where Leroy was constantly trying to get an edge on you. And, Leroy played with his hands, and, he wasn't a huge guy. He wasn't a guy that, like a Reggie White or somebody like that, but he just understood leverage so much. And, of course, his speed. And maybe the fact that he wasn't a big guy and he was one of those, really speed rushers that really came off the edge quick like that, maybe that was his advantage. But Leroy was the kind of guy that, he was one of the first that would start slapping down your hands. And anytime you tried to get leverage on him, he would just get up underneath you and take you right back into the quarterback. So, I mean, the position of defensive end changed a lot because of Leroy Selmon. Randy White, though, he was just a bull rushing, head slapping, kind of in your face, throw you into the quarterback if he couldn't get there himself kind of guy. And, that's you have a lot of those, especially in the middle of the line, and Randy was more of a defensive tackle. So it was a different position than what Leroy was playing. But, I played against some great players, the Reggie Whites. He was probably the best, the Michael Carters, the Jim Burts, the Joe Kleckos, just great players that I've got some great memories of.
What's your best memory of a tough matchup? And who is a guy that was the toughest you ever faced? You talk about Reggie White and Klecko, but go ahead and give me one of those players. Of course, I've heard about Reggie White before. We had Leon Searcy. He was on, former offensive lineman for the Steelers and the Miami Hurricanes and the Jags and various teams. He talked about how tough Reggie White was. But talk about a player that was very tough for you. Why was he tough? And then talk about a player where, you kind of dominated him, Randy. You kind of got the best of him.
Well, I won't talk too much about those guys.
Oh, come on.
A lot of them are my
got to do here.
But, on third and longs and in shotgun, they would always move Randy or Reggie White in the middle. So I was usually on an island with that guy. So some of those times it was absolutely, excuse me, impossible to stop him. I always had to have help. Either one of the uncovered guards or a running back or somebody, because the guy was absolutely unstoppable. Usually by the time I got the ball shotgun back there to the quarterback, he was already on my edge. He was just that quick. So I had to have some help. So there's a guy who, when he played nose guard in a third and long situation, he was absolutely unstoppable without help. Now, on a play-to-play basis guy, somebody who just was a run, stop, and jamming kind of nose guard, I think about the people like Jerry Ball, or Michael Carter. I think about people like Klecko, who was cocked sideways in the nose. He was the first guy to ever cock sideways at nose guard. I think about those kind of guys who you just couldn't root them out of there. They were doing their job by just stopping you dead in your tracks. And, those were the tough days. Those were the days where you earned every dime of what you got paid.
Yeah, I remember Jerry Ball. Of course, he played with the Lions, and, he's always trying to, stop the Buccaneer running back, of course, and get in there. And I look at these defensive tackles for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers they have today, Anna Dominican Sue, and, of course, Avita Vea. Talk about trying to play against them, namely Avea. I mean, the man is 340, 360, but he runs like he's 250 pounds. How do you block that?
I don't know. I never had to face anybody like that, so thank goodness. But, today's athletes, they're so much better coached. They come into the league so much better coached. And, they're better athletes. They're bigger, they're stronger, they're faster, they're smarter, I think, because I think they've seen new offenses, they've seen new defenses, they know how to react to things, better coaching. So, these guys today, they are just so impressive coming out of college. And then, I think that, like I said, the game has changed in the pros. I think they're getting more opportunities to stay in the gym longer. That was something that we did, but we did it when we were so tired, that it was so tough to keep your strength up during the season because you were just so beat up and tired from practice. But now they have the opportunity to stay in there longer and get more work done in the gym. And that helps you stay healthier too. So, it's a different game now. And because it's a different game, then all those positions are different.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And we're on with Randy Grimes, former center for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, here on the Sports Web Live on NSPN. And, of course, I love St. Pete. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. Talk about Aaron Donald. I mean, people say Warren Sapp, there was never be another Warren Sapp, but it certainly seems like Aaron Donald has kind of eclipsed him, right?
I don't know if he's eclipsed him, but he's certainly close.
Okay.
He's a kid that would be pretty tough to consistently on a play after play basis to without help to keep under control. And he's very impressive. I like his attitude. I like his work ethic. I like his leadership. I've heard him say a lot of things. I've heard a lot of interviews from him, and I like his leadership on the field. I'm impressed with that. So, there's a lot of good young players out there that are gonna. Probably will be their breakout year.
Yeah, I mean, and definitely getting after the quarterback. That's why the reason why these defensive linemen are paid so much money at this point. Talking about the offensive line, talk about your position a little bit. Take me inside of why it is so difficult to play center in the National Football League, in your opinion.
Well, other than having to snap the ball and be responsible for somebody like Tom Brady, the center is usually the quarterback of the offensive line, and he's the one that's relied upon to make all the calls and get guys going in the right direction. There's a lot of changes that are being made over on that defensive front from the time you break the huddle and, before you get that 5 yards up to the football. So there's a lot going on in the mind of a center. There's a lot going on in the mind of all the offensive linemen, but mainly the center. He's got to declare the strengths. He's got to find the right linebacker that they're responsible for. He's got to get guys going in the right direction. And, there's so much more to that position than just blocking. You got to snap the ball. You got to be able to take a step at the same time while you're snapping the ball. You've got to get going in the right direction and make sure that Tom gets the ball right where he expects it every time. I mean, that's consistency. That's what training camp's all about. That's why, the starting center is down there snapping the ball during 7-on-7 drills or 3-on-3 drills. It's just consistency, and it's like training your brain to where everything becomes just reaction instead of something you have to think about. So there's a lot of work that goes into it, and it's all footwork, it's all speed, it's all handwork, and it's a tough position to play. But once you've done it, and like for me, that's all I ever knew. I couldn't. I was talking about that game that I had to play at left guard against Randy White. It felt weird me not snapping the ball first, putting my hand down on the turf and like everybody else and starting to play. I was used to coming up, grabbing the laces, getting the ball to where it was going to be put in the quarterback's hand just a certain way, and it just becomes second nature.
Ever have the quarterback there? And I don't know if I've ever seen this before. I've seen it with rookie quarterbacks before. Vinny or Steve or Steve Young. Did they go under the guard instead of the center? Did that ever happen in your career? Because I've seen that happen before rookie quarterbacks. Did that happen with any of those quarterbacks when you played?
Yeah, that's pretty common. That happens a lot. And give a quarterback a break there. He's got a lot to look at from the time we clap and break the huddle. He's looking at secondaries. He's looking at strengths of the defense. He's finding linebackers too. And so, he's not really looking to see if he's coming up to the right ass or not.
Good stuff. Randy Grimes, former Tampa Bay Buccaneers center, here on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television, live on NSPN. And of course, I Love St. Pete. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. With that being said, talk about your offensive line crew, namely a Paul Gruber. What was it like to play with that guy at left tackle? To me, besides you, he was the most consistent on an offensive line, right?
Yeah, Paul was a gentle giant, man. That guy came in with so much talent, and he was just so quiet, so soft-spoken and so forth. But man, you put him on the football field, there's a guy who would never get injured. There's nothing that he wouldn't do to make sure that he got his block done, to protect the quarterback, to protect the quarterback's blind side. And being a rookie at the time, that was pretty awesome in itself. Guy did not give up any sacks for a long time, and I think he finished his career with giving up very few. Paul was a great unsung hero. There's a guy that probably should have gone to the Pro Bowl every year, but because he played in the Tampa market, he didn't make it. But Paul was a great left tackle, and he was probably one of the greatest Buccaneers of all time, in my opinion.
A lot of people say that, and also they say James Wilder belongs in the Ring of Honor. Talk about blocking for a James Wilder. What made him so dynamic at that running back position?
James didn't wait for a hole. He just made his own hole. And that was the great thing about James. The bad thing for you is it might be right over the middle of your back or your butt or whatever. But James was a great teammate. He was a great guy to have in the locker room. He was certainly a great guy to have on the playing field. And, he was the kind of running back that we all wanted to see do well. We wanted him to play. We wanted him to have great stats and great yardages and great games. You can remember some of the games that we had, especially when he was trying to break that rushing record that year. Sure. And, James was just somebody that we all wanted to play hard for. He was kind of that Steve DeBerg kind of guy who motivated us. And, I've always considered it a privilege to play on a team with James Wilder.
Now, when that happens, when a running back runs over your back, do you go and have a word with them? Hey, young man, please don't do that again. Is there a situation where that happens? You kind of take him.
No, that doesn't. No, that doesn't. It doesn't work like that. If he ran over your back, then that's probably because you didn't make a hole for him, and that's on you. So.
All right, good stuff. Good stuff. At least he's being honest. I kind of feel like he would, take him aside. I like to see that, just kind of grab him like, look, if you run over me again, I want to show you why you don't run over me. All right. Do you feel like the NFL, you talked about the drug addiction that you've had with pain pills and shots. Do you feel like the NFL should do more of getting away from that? We have medical marijuana as our sponsor, and it seems like the NFL is kind of against that. Do you think the NFL should kind of embrace other ways for players to deal with those type of pains that you went through in your NFL?
Yeah, absolutely. Opioids are not the solution. That's for sure. The game's changed a lot. I like to think that there's been a lot more accountability in the 12 years that I've been advocating for this. I like to think that there's a lot more accountability with the way that team doctors prescribe. I don't think there's as much off-label prescribing of narcotics in the locker room as there used to be. I think to some degree there's still some. I've worked with some athletes who have recently left the game, and they tell me that it still goes on to some degree, but I don't think it is what it was back when I played. Where it was readily available, all you had to do was ask for it. I mean, we had an open drug safe that you could go get whatever you wanted out of there if you wanted to. Matter of fact, if it was ever accidentally locked, then the jersey number for the three white guys that started on defense at the time, that was John Cannon, Mark Cotney, and Scott Brantley. Their jersey numbers were the combination to the drug safe. So you can just get in it and get whatever you wanted out. So there's a lot more accountability than there used to be. And I'm quick to never blame the Buccaneers or the NFL for my addiction that started when I was a member of the NFL. But, it's certainly not their fault. I'm responsible for everything that I put in my mouth, believe me. But it was available back then, and I don't think it's as available as it used to be. And I think that there's more accountability as far as with the DEA and the different agencies that they have to report to for prescribing narcotics. So I'm proud of the work that we've done in the last 12 years that we've advocated for this.
Yeah, I want to go back to the NFL because I know you don't want to blame them, but do you feel like the NFL should do more for their players that have played in the past? And you look at this new crop of players, they're getting paid big time money. The older players didn't necessarily get that. So do you feel like the NFL should do more for that? Because we've seen, NFL players die from CTE and the life expectancy, I believe, is like 53 years old. So in your opinion, do you feel like the NFL should do better with that aspect also?
Yeah, and that's always been an issue. The NFL could do a lot more for retired players. They could help players better transition. That's something that I talk about a lot, is that we as athletes, we're never prepared to leave that game. And when we don't have that uniform to put on anymore, or that playbook to look at, or that itinerary taped to the wall to look at every day, I think we struggle. We always think we're prepared for it, but until it really happens, and I can remember Sam Wyche putting his hand on my shoulder and saying, "Randy, your services won't be needed here in Tampa anymore." And I can remember thinking, wow, that's how it ends. All the blood, sweat, and tears that I've left on football fields all over this country since fourth grade, and that's how it ends. A coach that my fifth head coach, who's only coached me for a year, who has no loyalty to me, who I really don't even like, puts his hand on my shoulder and tells me that I won't be needed in Tampa anymore. And I can remember just raking everything out of my locker into a black trash bag and walking out the back door. And Randy Grimes, the football player, didn't exist anymore. And I struggled with that, Peter, for a long time. It took me a while to figure out who I was when I wasn't Randy Grimes, the football player. I struggled to be a father or a husband or an employee, or when I wasn't Randy Grimes, the football player. So I think the NFL could do a better job of helping guys prepare for the transition out of this. But, that's a problem with anywhere in America. We just don't transition well. CEOs that leave a job, or people that retire, or military that don't have that uniform to put on anymore, or, even first responders or things like that, whose identity is wrapped up in that uniform that they put on. When they don't have that anymore, they struggle. So, that's something that I talk about a lot because it affected me a lot, and it was throwing gasoline on an already raging fire that was my addiction to opiates.
And you hit rock bottom September 22nd, 2009. Go ahead and talk about that and how this basically does get you to go in the right direction, because they always say with a drug addict that they have to hit rock bottom. Was that your rock bottom?
Yeah, and what I say a lot about that is a lot of times I hate that term, you got to hit rock bottom, because a lot of people don't recover from their rock bottoms, or they have a felony or something that follows in the rest of their lives. But the perfect storm was happening in the spring and summer of 2009. And, Tom McHale had just passed away. And Tom McHale was somebody I was very close to, somebody that I'd played next to for many years, somebody who was out there doing the exact same thing I was doing. And that was self-medicating his injuries that he got while he played in the league. And one morning he just didn't wake up. And I love Tom McHale. And, that really started getting my attention. That scared the crap out of me. And I was also having a bunch of health scares. I was having seizures a lot as a result of withdrawal. Excuse me. I was having seizures as a result of withdrawal, and those were happening like nearly every day. My daughter, she wouldn't let me come around my first grandchild because I wasn't fit to be around her baby. And that's when my wife also realized that she loved me unconditionally, but she realized she was loving me to death, and she was enabling me. And she was just by doing that, slowly watching me die. And she just couldn't do it anymore for her own mental health. She had to leave. So that was the perfect storm. That was my bottom. That was the summer of 2009. But you know what? My wife was willing to make one more phone call for me. And whoever back then, they didn't have anything out there, no resources for former professional athletes with substance abuse issues. But whoever she talked to at the league office that day in New York knew somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody. And that's how I got on that airplane that night, September 22nd, 2009.
Excellent. And of course, then you came out with Athletes in Recovery. Go ahead and talk about that and what you're doing there. Motivational speaker. I get motivated. I feel like I want to run through the wall. I haven't played a lot of professional football, but I tell you right now, if you were talking to me, I would be motivated, Randy. Just saying.
Well, while I was in treatment, I knew that there was a lot of other guys out there just like me, guys with that warrior mentality who were suffering in silence and either because of guilt, shame, pride, ego, whatever it is, they weren't putting their hands up and asking for help because, first of all, they thought they were the only ones out there struggling like they were. And also because they didn't think that there was any resources available for them or funding available. I mean, you're talking about guys who left the game, and as soon as they left the game, they lost their insurance. It's not like today where they get to keep their insurance for life, So right. I knew that there was a lot of guys out there still struggling, and that was kind of, even though I was in treatment and I had a lot of work to do on myself, believe me, that I had a long road to hoe. But I knew I wanted to do something. I knew I wanted to make everything that I'd put my family through, everything that I'd put my reputation through everything I'd put my finances through, everything that I lost because of my addiction. I knew that I wanted to make it mean something. And I didn't know what it was going to be at the time, but I knew I wanted to help these guys that were out there just like me. And so, even while I was in treatment, that was kind of the birth of Athletes in Recovery. And, I did everything they asked me to do. I worked on this project for over a year before I launched it. And, I started working with the NFL, with the Player Care Foundation. I started reaching out to former players. Guys were reaching out to me. The more I spoke and the more I got my story out there, the more guys would raise their hand and ask for help. Yeah, me too. I'm suffering too. I'm struggling, out here. Thank you for reaching out, those kind of things. And, I had no idea that it would be such a success that Major League Baseball would get involved, that the NBA, the NHL, I've got former athlete groups from the Jockeys Guild to motorsports safety groups to MMA guys. I've got former golfers and tennis players that are coming to me with their self-medication and mental health issues. So, God has blessed me with an opportunity to stay connected, not only to the game I love, which is NFL, but also to former athletes who I know what they're going through. I know what they miss, and I know how they struggle with that loss of identity. I mean, it's Peter, it was like it wasn't until 2009 that I finally grieved the death of Randy Grimes, a football player. Even though I had retired way back in 1993. I didn't grieve that death until I got in treatment and started peeling back those layers of the onion that made me do what I did. And it was like a load was lifted off of me. And I struggled for so long, and I don't want people to struggle for that long. I want them to address it when they leave the game and find new purpose. Reinvent themselves, resurrect things. And find purpose and passion.
Yeah, I mean, and again, the story is just unbelievable. What you're doing is unbelievable. Any players you want to name drop that were involved with your program, or any athletes that you like to, kind of highlight, if you will?
Well, there's been a lot of guys that have successfully completed the program. They're out there doing good, but it's certainly not my place to out them. And if they want to share their story and be out on the stage and be out there with it, then that's up to them. But I've certainly had the opportunity to work with hundreds and hundreds of former players, not only from the NFL, from pretty much all sports, and male and female. And like I said, God's given me the opportunity to stay connected to sports. Who would have ever thought that it would have been this?
It's tremendous.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely tremendous what you're doing. Like I said, having those athletes with you on this and doing that for them, and motivational, and all the stuff that you've come from, it's been absolutely tremendous and motivational. Love the story here. I want to ask you, what coach had the biggest impact on you? And do you feel like with that coach's impact, this is the reason why you're able to overcome that from that coach's teachings?
I can't say that any of I've got to go back to my Baylor days when I talk about, my offensive line coach and head coach, Grant Taft at Baylor. I really, with in the pros, Peter, it was just such a job,
Yeah.
There was not that personal relationship with the players and with their families that you had in college. So, and really, when you have 6 different offensive line coaches in 10 years,
Right.
you're not really going to develop a great bond with anybody.
Sure.
I had Coach Perkins the longest. We had probably the best relationship, and God rest his soul. There were a lot of positive things that I took out of those 4 years with him, but there was also a lot of not so positive.
Gotcha. What about BA? I mean, Bruce Arians has been unbelievable for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, of course, winning his first Super Bowl, overcoming cancer, coach of the year multiple times. I mean, talk about him. What would it be like to to be under him and him be your coach? And do you feel like with being a coach, is that the most important thing? It's not about the X's and O's at the end of the day, Randy. It's about developing those relationships with their players.
Most important thing. And he's a guy that supports everything that I do. So I'm very grateful for him for all his support for athletes in recovery. He's a player's coach, and relationships are the most important things to him too. And he's made that very clear. He's made that even clearer to, and this, with his assistants coaches. He doesn't want them. He wants them to continue strong relationships with their family during the year. So, that mentality just didn't exist back in the 80s and early 90s. You didn't have coaches like that. You had coaches that were sleeping at the facility. You had guys that were breaking down film every day and every night for 6 months. They were living at the facility. That was the mentality back then. I think things are more relaxed now. I think things are more family oriented. But one thing you said a minute ago, that is the most important thing, and that's relationships.
Well, I tell you right now, I like our relationship here. And of course, you're always welcome on the evolution of Sports Talk Television. In fact,
I'm a St. Pete guy now.
There you go. You're absolutely a St. Pete guy now. So maybe we'll have to get you out to one of our watch parties. Oh, I kind of put out the surprise out there, but who knows? And I'd love for you to break down some offensive linemen. Really quick, one last question to get you out of here. Tristan Wirfs, a rookie that comes out of Iowa, doesn't have all the preseason reps and only gives up 1 sack. How tremendous was his season this year, in your opinion?
Well, we've already talked about him. He's the next Paul Gruber, or maybe he's going to be even a greater player than Paul Gruber.
Wow.
But I've seen what a guy like that can do and what he's capable of and how impressive. And it doesn't matter that he was on the right side. So there's some great defensive ends that are playing over on that side. So, I think left tackles get way too much credit. I think there's a lot of work that's going on over on the right side. And that guy, he came in and he manned up right off the bat. And, you can't say enough about that. You can't teach that. That's either you got it or you don't. And I give credit to the Buccaneers scouting department for going out and finding a guy like that, because that is so rare.
Yeah, it really is. And I know there were a lot of pundits out there saying there's no way a rookie can come in there and protect Tom Brady and do a fantastic job and not give up multiple sacks. This guy gave up 1. So the sky is the limit, as well as the sky's the limit for Mr. Randy Grimes. Go ahead and promote yourself and promote once again what you're doing, Athletes in Recovery, my friend.
Yeah, it's Athletes in Recovery on Facebook, but if you go to the website, it's proathletesinrecovery.org. You can find me there. You can find me at randygrimespeaks.com. But come on to Instagram or to Twitter at SoberCenter60. And you'll find me, but look us up on Facebook. Again, it's Randy Grimes or at Athletes in Recovery on Facebook. But follow us, support us. I'm guilty of kind of boxing myself in, and people think that I only work with athletes, and I don't. I work with anybody who is seeking recovery. Anybody that wants to give up this lifestyle of doing the next wrong thing. And I want to help them get back on the road, get their lives back, get their relationships back. And that's what it's all about.
Well, look, I know about your football career. We talked about that, but we need more men like yourself to take that initiative, like Eric White was talking about, with other people struggling with their addiction. So God bless you, my friend, and definitely keep on coming on the Sports Web, and we'll break down some offensive linemen, because you know what? It's too quiet with offensive linemen, and they don't talk enough about offensive linemen. We need to do that here on the Sports.
I agree 100%.
Love to have you back. Randy Grimes, former Tampa Bay Buccaneer, and of course, Athletes in Recovery. Thanks a lot for your time on the evolution of Sports Talk Television. All right, boss?
Thank you very much.
All right, there you go. Good stuff there from Randy Grimes. Just a great story. And you guys always tell me, go and get and interview former NFL players. And that's the reason why you do it. because you get a different perspective. And I could sit here and tell you what I think and this and that and the other thing, but that man right there, he played the game. And he played the game through injuries. He played the game through addiction and overcame it. That in itself should give you motivation. It should give you perspective, if you will. You think you're having a bad life? You can't overcome it? Look at this man's story. Look at what this man is doing. That's to give you motivation. 727-255-0391 and 727-255-0391. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. Let's go out to the webheads here. Brandon Bingham says, yo, NSPN, NexGen Sports Media, says Randy Grimes. Absolutely. Let's go ahead and fire the cannons for that. Did you like the smirk on his face when I asked him, who did you basically dominate? I don't really want to talk about that. I mean, that's a guy that gets it, right? I mean, it would have been easily for him to throw some guys underneath the bus. He didn't do it. But man, I would have loved to hear those stories, right? Hear those stories? You know, bulletin board, who knows? Maybe those defensive tackles are talking trash versus the Grimes, and he's just mauling them down. I mean, this guy was no slouch. He was a good center for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, second-round pick. And what, 104 games started? Unbelievable. So I loved hearing that. I loved seeing the grin, too, because he was ready to let it go. And I'll tell you right now, if you have not checked out Dark Side of Football, Playing with Pain on Vice, anything that Vice does, by the way, Dark Side of Football, Dark Side of the Ring, Dark Side of the 90s, anything they do, they come correct. They're on point. Great shows to watch. Definitely tune into that one. Dang, Peter, we missed out on Aaron Rodgers. I told you weren't going to get Aaron Rodgers. Enough of you in trolling all the time. I mean, I love you, Troy Polamalu, King Troy, Trojan Legend SC. You always troll me on this show, but I told you they weren't going to get Aaron Rodgers. Now, what happens next year? We shall see. Because basically, Rodgers controls the narrative. He doesn't want to beat the Packers. It was about money. They redid his deal. It's the last dance for the Packers, according to Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers, which, by the way, they have not won a Super Bowl together. I mean, come on, if you're going to do a comparison with Pippen and Jordan, at least win some championships together. They haven't won nothing. As won as many championships as I have. So we'll see what happens with the Aaron Rodgers situation, and we'll see what the effects are going to be. And maybe we've made a big deal about it in the offseason because it's great for sports talk television, is it not? I mean, it pushes the needle. Most likely won't have any effect on that locker room. You know why? Because it's Aaron Rodgers, and he's still playing at a high level. All right, hopefully we can still get Deshaun Watson. Don't want him. I'm telling you, I don't think he plays this year. I do not. Not with some of the more details that are coming out about this man. Not good. 10 criminal complaints. 2 women who have not filed a lawsuit who have just gone straight to the Houston police. Not good. The NFL has been quiet about it. I get it. He's able to practice right now. But that could change, and just like that, boom, it could change. So I don't think he plays this year. That's my prediction. At all. Commissioner's exempt list, suspended with pay, and we'll see what happens next year. Randy, absolutely. Randy loves that trench work, making those line adjustments and calling the blitzes out. I'm being serious. We're going to get that guy back on, and he's going to break down some offensive line tape. And he's going to tell you what was wrong and what was right. And that was a big time key with this team last year with Tom Brady. You got to protect your quarterback. By the way, he's turning 44 in a couple days. So once again, it's a big time priority for this offensive line to come together. As my dad would say, to gel. They gelled last year. They played well. That's what you got to do. Troy Polamalu, King Troy, Trojan Legend. I went to McDonald's and I saw Carson Wentz applying for a job there. Well, it looks like he's going to be out indefinitely with a foot injury. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
no! We suck again!
Yeah, I think that's how Colts fans are feeling right now. I mean, here you trade for Carson Wentz, who had his fair share of success with the Philadelphia Eagles, right? MVP candidate in 2017. What happened? Wheels came off. Not able to stay healthy. And then on top of it, needed a change of scenery, finally gets it and hurts his foot. Not good. Looks like indefinitely. We'll see. We will monitor that situation on how long he'll be out. But it's disappointing, right? I mean, you get Frank Reich as your coach, who you were very successful with when he was an offensive coordinator for the Eagles, and now he's going to miss some substantial amount of time. Disappointing. But again, that's what happens. You know, training camp, whatever else, injury happens, changes the whole complexion. I don't have to tell you, especially a quarterback. So you better have a good backup quarterback. All right, what's up, everyone? Says Christopher Cole. What's going on? Thank you for sharing your story. Wasn't that great? And he talked about Scott Brantley. I wanted to ask him about Brantley. So I'll do that next time we get him on the show. And there'll be next time, trust me. I probably met Randy Grimes in 86 when I was at Shriners, but it's been so long ago. Good stuff, my friend. Kimberly says, I love your memories of Leroy Selman. I mean, who doesn't? Leroy Selman. First Hall of Famer for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The gentle giant. He would put you down. He would put you down on the ground and then help you back up again. Stunning says, Peter, when do you think Kyle Trask's season is? Well, it's not this year. Who knows if it's going to be next year, but he's definitely the future. He's definitely got to develop. I think he's got a future with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Everything else, I don't know. Sucked when Paul Gruber got injured before he got to play in the first playoff game in 97. It did. Because if anybody deserved it, it was Gruber. Mr. Consistent. Jeremiah says, hello. What's going on? James says, boo. Let's go Vegas. And we'll see if they can do something. Give the owners a needle to inject their veins with poison. And how? Let's go to Vegas with Adams. I don't know what you just said. Body bag for Brady. Oh, well, that didn't happen last year. In fact, I want to ask you this, Mr. James Smith, seeing as you want to troll me being a Raiders fan. That's okay. You can troll here. I'll give it to you. Let you have it. Do you honestly think the secret team that Tom Brady was talking about was the Raiders? Can you envision John Gruden sticking with the Derek Carr over Tom Brady? You tell me. 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. I think it could be. I mean, he said he never wanted to play for that team. But then again, can you picture John Gruden saying that? You know, there was talk of Bears, Titans. The Bears are going to stick with Mitchell Trubisky over Tom Brady. I don't see it. I don't. I think it could be the Las Vegas Raiders. What do you think about Derek Carr this year, James Smith? Want to be quiet now? Okay. Again, well, what's going on, Jeremiah? I'll give you a go ahead and give you a fire. So that's what you get here on the Sports Web. I think we're going to have Alex Fleming on here in just a little bit. Don't know. The guy's busy. Love him. He's my boy. Okay. Well, we'll see. We'll see this year. Big year for Derek Carr and that Raiders team. Defense has got to improve. They got the offensive weapons, right? Pretty good offensive weapons led by Jacobs at running back. So we'll see. We'll definitely see. All right, let's get into Tampa Bay Buccaneer talk. Of course, Bruce Arians calling out Pro Football Talk. In fact, if you watch this, it was pretty good. I wanted to get the sound here. Hold on. Let's see. Let's go ahead. Thanks, Jeremiah. Absolutely. Let's see. I'll be upset if you left, but it's, well, it is a biz. But Davante Adams may be a Raider next year because Adams has talked about playing with the Derek Carr. So who knows at this point? But going back to Bruce Arians, he had comments this week. All right, one thing before we get started, because he was talking about Tuesday's press conference. If I give you some information, just know the effing rules. I'm not saying it, guys. Before you put him in the press. Red, yellow bands, they don't have to wear them in practice. That's indoors. I gotta read stuff. We should be fine for red and yellow bands because they ain't got them in practice. That's BS. If you're gonna report stuff and you didn't say stuff, make sure it's effing right. Of course, this is going back to the Pro Football Talk article where it seems like, and I don't know if you've read Pro Football Talk last year and this year with Mike Florio, it seems like they're on a witch hunt for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, doesn't it? I mean, from reporting that Tom Brady went into the other house, that he was working out with teammates, he shouldn't be doing this, he shouldn't be doing that. It's almost like they're trying to spur on the NFL to suspend Brady or fine the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, like they got it out for him. Well, they reported a story last week about the Bucs having guys with red, yellow bands, and no bands at all. So Bruce Arians pretty upset about it. And he was also pretty upset about the practice today. Not a good practice. Not a good practice at all. In fact, this is what he had to say. I'm really not pleased. I thought we were really, really sluggish. We talked about it before we left Wednesday and took the day off Thursday. Uh-oh. You take the day off on Thursday, you think you're going to clean it up? You don't. Uh-oh. I don't know if our receivers caught a pass. Same thing defensively. We didn't stop anything over 3rd and 9. Hopefully we'll be better in pads Saturday. Hopefully. But again, it's just training camp. But this kind of symbolizes what this attitude for this team is going to be, right? Bruce Arians, throw out all what they did last year. This year, that's important. Stay hungry or get your food taken away from you. Set the table so somebody can come and eat or don't eat at all. It's all about staying hungry. This team's got a challenge, and I've said it, Super Bowl or bust early on. But you don't get there by just showing up, and that's what this team has done this last week in training camp, and Bruce Arians not very happy about it. In fact, Tom Brady not very happy about it. Quite possibly a ploy to motivate his team for the inaugural padded practice. So they're about to put the pads on. We'll see what happens with them. Now, let's go ahead. I'd be upset. All right, I got that. Jeremiah says, may I ask, who is your favorite player of all time? Derek Brooks. That's my favorite player, Derek Brooks. Who's your favorite player of all time? Who's your favorite player of when the Bucs were losing? 727-255-0391 at 727-255-0391. Let's go out to Christopher Cole, whomever it was. It's their loss. We're still champions and going for 2. I agree. But it's still fun to talk about, is it not? Is it not fun to talk about at this point? So, kind of talked about that. Talked about Tom Brady being upset. Of course, some appearances today. Players showing back up again at camp. Jordan Whitehead being one of them. Of course, was removed from the roster when he was placed on COVID-19 reserve list on July 23rd. He was back at practice on the sideline on Friday. According to Pewter Report, the Buccaneers also waived safety Augie Contressa to open up the spot for Whitehead. And then O.J. Howard, who's coming off a ruptured Achilles, also was seen warming up and catching the ball at the side. So guys are coming back. I get it. We talked about Cameron Brate being on the PUP list and being worried about the position, as you should, but the Bucs are starting to get some of these players back. So we'll see what happens with that. Dak Prescott, we mentioned that with him dealing with an injury on his shoulder. Don't think it's too serious. For a Cowboy fan right now, they're kind of worried about it. Not going to lie. With Prescott coming back for the major injury he had and then signing that major contract extension, you don't want to see anything go wrong, and you already have an injury. In fact, Dallas has all kinds of injuries at this point. So we'll see how that goes, because you're going to have 3 preseason games, and preseason's right around the corner. So, and the Bucs open up against the Dallas Cowboys. So if you're a Bucs fan, you should be checking the Cowboys injury chart or injury report, if you will. Lots of injuries on that list. Not necessarily the best, that's for sure. So, what do you think so far? 727-255-0391 and 727-255-0391. Let me go out to these comments. Derek Brooks. There you go. I like Ed Reed too. Who didn't like Ed Reed? Of course, let's go ahead and talk about Madden rankings. We talked about it the other night with Mike Evans and how I disagreed. Well, Mike Evans had a response for people that were still talking about Madden. In fact, he said it in so many words. People still play Madden. And I mean, I feel like the guy should be feeling that way simply with the rankings that we talked about the other night with Julio Jones being ahead of him. I don't understand it. I don't know how Julio Jones could be ahead of him. I don't know how some of those wide receivers on the list could be ahead of Mike Evans. What are they watching? By the way, Madden, there's a reason why a lot of people don't buy your game, because it's the same gameplay over and over again. Not saying I don't like playing it. I'm just saying kind of spice it up a little bit. Change it up. Let's go out to Sandra Nagel, watching the best sports talk show in the Tampa Bay area, the Sports Web, with I Love St. Pete and NSPN. Awesome story. Really enjoyed it with Randy Grimes. I did too. Good stuff. Let me go ahead and fire those cannons. So, getting back to it, what do you got to prove at this point if you're Evans? 7 consecutive 1,000-yard receiving seasons? And you got guys like Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen. I get it. Allen's talented. Not 1,000 yards receiving. Not 7 straight years. Julio Jones, again, everybody's all hyped up. Julio Jones going to the Tennessee Titans. How many games did you play last year? 9? 9 games last year. Didn't even have 1,000 receiving yards. Ranked ahead of Mike Evans. So Mike Evans had something to say. People still play Madden. Love it. Boom shakalaka. Yeah. Absolutely dunked on EA and Madden. All right. The top quarterbacks were released, the rankings for them. Some of this may not necessarily surprise you. Patrick Mahomes at 99, Tom Brady at 97, Aaron Rodgers at 96. How do you like that, Bucs fans? Brady over Rodgers, as it should be. Russell Wilson, 94, Lamar Jackson, 90. Deshaun Watson, 90. Wonder if that rating falls if he gets suspended. Josh Allen, 88. I think actually Josh Allen's a little bit better than Deshaun Watson. Don't you think? Upcoming quarterback in Josh Allen. Just saying. Dak Prescott, 87. Ryan Tannehill, 87. And Matt Ryan, 85. So, let's see. Vic should have been rated 99 back in 2007. I think you're talking about 2004. So, that's your Madden rankings. We had some basketball draft stuff. Of course, the big story in the NBA, because we're going to switch gears a little bit. Russell Westbrook joining LeBron James and, of course, Anthony Davis in the yearly, who is going to go with LeBron James super team story? Gotta love it. Is this going to help Russell Westbrook, who's been a former MVP? I thought the Lakers needed shooting. Who are they going to get as shooters? Word is Carmelo Anthony and possibly Rudy Gay. Do you care about the NBA? I think some people do. I think if you're an Orlando Magic fan, you care about it. With Jalen Suggs getting drafted 5th overall, which was kind of a shocker to Suggs. Let's see if the Magic can keep some of these players in the fold, shall we? Maybe not try to trade everybody, right? Maybe let them develop, see how it works out, keep the coaching staff. That's the one thing I took out of that Grimes interview. He said about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, constant changes all the time. Coaches, GMs, players, different systems, doesn't help. We want to sit here as armchair quarterbacks and say, well, you need to cut this guy and get rid of this coach. And we don't even think about the effects of it. You got to have consistency. That's why all these Tampa teams right now are doing so well, because they're consistent. And they have consistent ownership to a certain degree. Rays. Definitely the Lightning. And definitely the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So, yeah, Jalen Suggs, 5th overall. And I want to make sure I get this correct because his brother is on the team. I'm just looking through my notes right now as we speak. The 8th overall pick is, I cannot pronounce this guy's name. It is Wagner. And of course, Mores is the brother that's on the team. And the guy that they drafted right now is Franz. So Franz Wagner, 8th out of Michigan. So pretty good haul by the Orlando Magic, wouldn't you say? Jalen Suggs, hell of a college basketball player, has athleticism for days, can go to the rim, can shoot pretty well. Of course, you not only have to shoot pretty well, you got to shoot from the perimeter. We'll see. That's one of the things he definitely has to work on. But we saw the shot in March Madness, did we not? How this kid can make big-time shots at big-time times in the game. So you liked what the Magic did there with the players they picked from Gonzaga and, of course, from Michigan. We talked about already Russell Westbrook and the LA Lakers. What do you think about that? Big-time baseball trades going on today. Rays not doing anything. A little bit quiet. Lots of talk. All kinds of talk with the Rays. Although I will give them some respect. You know, getting a Nelson Cruz, even though he's 41 years old, he could still hit it out of the park. A little bit surprising the Rays would make that. In fact, I asked our good friend Dennis Phillips off the air from ABC Action News meteorologist, were you surprised by it? And he said, yep, never seen that before. Never seen the Rays make a deal at the trading deadline. Of course, they got a reliever, and they traded, of course, Diego Castillo to the Mariners. No trade for a Max Scherzer as he went to the LA Dodgers along with Trey Turner. So basically the Dodgers trying to win the World Series again. Chris Bryant goes to the San Francisco Giants, and Anthony Rizzo for some inexplicable reason goes to the Yankees when the Yankees needed pitching. Makes no sense with the Yankees at this point. None. And then, of course, Javi Baez going to the New York Mets. So there you go. You look like you're wearing lipstick. I'm not wearing lipstick. What the hell does that mean? I don't know what the hell that means. Jeremiah, you say some very funny things sometimes. I don't understand why you said that, but that's fine. Again, going back to the story with Carson Wentz, it looks like a foot injury that's going to keep him out indefinitely. So we'll see how that rolls down. And again, it's training camp time. So I think anybody trying to overreact about this Bucs team not necessarily coming off as sluggish, this basically just could be BA trying to motivate his team, but the practices have not been good the last couple of days. They have not. Lots of drop passes. Let's go out to Curtis. I always love hearing from people here on the sports web, on NSPN, and of course, I love St. Pete. Curtis, you stranger, welcome to the Evolution. What's going on, my friend?
What's up, Pimpin?
What's going on, buddy? We just had Randy Grimes on, former Tampa Bay Buccaneers center, and heard his story, and man, he just had lots of great things to say. I can't wait to get this guy on to break down some offensive line, but what's on your mind tonight?
Man, I just got off of freaking work.
You know what? I'll tell you right now. See, this is the thing. I give the meetings in the morning at my first job, which is, lead generation, and I have to motivate people. And the one thing I always say, everybody's like, it's Friday. Yes, it's Friday. Once we get through this, guys, we'll be home free. And I tell you right now, this had to be one of the slowest days of all time. In fact, I felt like I wanted to shoot myself because the day was never going to end. Is that the kind of day you had, my friend?
Man, you have no freaking idea.
Go ahead and tell me about it.
Man, it just was so slow. And then all of a sudden, it just picked up instantly. It was ridiculous. But anyway,
yes.
I want to talk about our Buccaneers. First of all, I haven't called you in a long time. So,
well, you got to stop doing that, okay? Because that's bad.
You know what? I just got picked up more hours at work, bro.
Well,
so
good for you. Congratulations.
My behind off.
Let me go ahead and give you a Ric Flair woo for that. Because it's always good to get a raise. It's always good to pick up some extra hours because guess what? That money, that mucho dinero is in that pocket, right? You're able to pay those bills, especially
That's
rent.
Right.
because it is the
right.
first of the month. So
First of all, let's talk about the greatest Super Bowl ring anybody's ever seen in their freaking life.
I'm telling you, that thing was thicker than some cold oatmeal.
Oh no, it was like the milkshakes back in the day at McDonald's. You remember you used to get the triple thick milkshakes back in the day at McDonald's?
Of course. Did they still serve those?
Yeah, but they're not the same, man. See, the milkshakes back in the day used to suck. Your jaws used to collapse.
Yes. I like that. I like that a lot. It's kind of like the Frosties at Wendy's. Kind of like those too.
I mean, this is what I have to say, and I don't want anybody booing me because everybody knows I'm a Red Sox fan. I've been a Red Sox fan for over 30 years, so I support the Rays when they're playing the Yankees and the Orioles and everybody else.
Hold on, just because you said it, I love you, Curtis, but I got to do it.
And you know what? I'm gonna tell you something.
Yes.
When they lost to the Dodgers in the World Series, and they pulled that. What was that guy's name that they pulled when they should have pulled him?
Who for the Rays? Blake
The
Snell.
pitcher. Yes, they pulled him
Yes.
when he was like lights out.
Yes.
Dude, I almost drop kicked my 70-inch TV. I'm like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life.
It was the dumbest thing you've ever seen in your life. I mean, that was probably one of the dumbest sports moments in my life, honestly. Besides the call by Pete Carroll on the goal line not to give it to Marshawn Lynch.
Okay.
I'm just here not to get fined. That guy who most likely would have been the MVP if he scores that touchdown.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And let's see, there was one more boneheaded sports moment that I saw. I don't remember. I seen it the other day and I thought about you. And
plenty of Bucs boneheaded moments.
Huh? Well, I was actually watching like the top 10 running backs of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And they showed Barry Sanders, and I had to turn it off because it was all Buccaneers highlights.
Oh, of course it is. Of course it is.
I was crying so bad.
Who could forget the 88-yard run with one shoe against John Lynch, who's a younger version, but you're just not going to catch Barry Sanders at that point. I mean, he's just a man among boys.
Is this team is a champ. Our Buccaneers are champions. Okay, they still have a lot to prove.
Yeah,
they do, because everybody outside of Tampa Bay or outside of being a Bucs fan swear that it's a fluke.
Sure.
Swear that it's, it was the whole Tom Brady thing. And, I hate to bring up the past, but if Jameis Winston was as half as consistent as Tom Brady was, he still would have been here.
Sure. I agree with you on that. Cut down on the turnovers. Everybody says, well, the defense, wasn't that great. They were okay, but they were getting better. But it doesn't help when your quarterback turns over the ball. I mean, what a difference, right? 40 touchdowns and 12 interceptions.
And the other thing is, I've been watching the Madden ratings on ESPN this week. Okay?
Is this a joke or what? Am I in the Twilight Zone here? I mean, I feel like playing. How is Julio Jones, Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, guys like that ahead of Mike Evans? What are they watching?
Well, why isn't Carlton Davis a top 10 corner?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess they didn't watch the performance at the Bucs back end. Yes, I said back end.
I mean, did he not shut Michael Thomas down all year last year?
He absolutely
Every game
did.
they played against him, she shut him down.
And that's another player that's ahead of Mike Evans, which, by the way, Mr. Mike Thomas not going to play for the Saints until week 7. And by the way, Madden, he had 0 touchdowns last year, and you still ranked him ahead of Mike Evans. Go ahead.
And now, the other thing that bothers me, God, I got so much to say. I'm going to have to call you back on another day.
No. You take your time, buddy.
Dude, if I hear one more person predict the Cleveland Browns to be in the Super Bowl, I'm going to blow my brains out.
Well, look, I'll be honest with you. I love Cleveland Brown fans. I mean, hope is eternal. They're kind of like the cousin of Tampa Bay Buccaneer fans, except when their team loses, they're there. They support them. We know Bucs fans. There's some diehard Buc fans, but we also know that, some Bucs fans can, go off into the good night, if you will.
I'm going to tell you a quick story, and then I'm going to continue my rant.
All right, go for it.
When we lost to the Saints 38-3 last year, the very next morning, I was head to toe, hat, socks, mask, shirt, pants, tennis shoe, sandals.
Wow.
Buccaneer. And some guy looked at me and was like, "You're not embarrassed to have that on?" I said, "You should be embarrassed to talk to me. Get out of my face."
Right. I mean, it's one game. I get it. It's a Sunday night affair, and there's a lot of Bucs fans out there. And I feel like, I'm a psychiatrist on the sports web. Like, I got to talk everybody off the cliff at this point. I mean, everybody was ready to jump off the Skyway Bridge. You remember? Oh, my God. They lost to the Saints 38-3. They got the Chiefs next week, so they're going to be 7-5. It's
not only that,
relax.
people were freaking out because we had that close game against the Giants.
Sure.
And then we had that loss to the Rams.
Yep, and the loss to the Bears that was on prime time.
Absolutely. Sleepy Tom, right?
Oh, I love it. I love it. They go to Washington when you get a chance to cover it, but they go to Washington and they're making jokes. And, basically Tom Brady is trolling Joe Biden and then he trolls himself. I mean, you got to love it. The guy just, he definitely knows what to say and when to say it.
Now, I'm going to say this about Cleveland. I'm going to get back on subject.
All right.
I personally don't like Baker Mayfield. But he's very talented.
He is. And
he is very talented. And their Super Bowl dreams lie on him.
Mm-hmm.
Because you still got Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. And Nick Chubb is one of the best running backs in the league.
Yeah.
And then you got Jarvis Landry, who how I feel about him. To me, he's head and shoulders above OBJ.
Well, OBJ can't stay healthy, and he can't stay off of social media and Instagram and all that other nonsense.
That's his problem.
Well, it is his problem, but it's been a problem. It's going to continue to be a problem. He's got to stay healthy. But you talk about the Browns and all their talent. Baker Mayfield, wasn't it amazing when you put two running backs, you run the ball, you become balanced? And I keep on preaching it, balance. And again, I think that's because I'm a Libra. The scale. You got to have that balance, and you definitely got to have a balance in the offense where a quarterback has been prone to throw interceptions like a Baker Mayfield. And you could see the difference when you get a Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. You get that combination together. It cuts down on those throws. And then on top of it, it makes the defense be honest. Because now, if you stick 8-man in the box, you got one-on-one coverage with hopefully an OBJ and a Jarvis Landry. Those things start to open up there. So to me, I think that's the key. They got to get back to that. But now, nobody's going to be surprised by the Cleveland Browns. Nobody's going to be surprised. And that's going to be a tough division. You got Big Ben coming back off of injury. Go ahead.
I have a date tonight, and I'm going to go take a shower, but I have a couple early season predictions. Okay. All right. You already know how I feel about the Bucs. I already think we're going to win the Super Bowl again. That's not a question.
How many wins?
14.
Okay. 14-3. Got you down there,
like
Curtis.
14.
All right.
I think we're going to lose one division game, and it's going to be like a hiccup.
Mm-hmm.
Because New Orleans still has a great defense. And that offense is, if Jameis Winston has learned anything from Drew Brees, that kid has talent through the roof.
Sure he does.
He does.
Right.
I'm not worried about Carolina. I ain't worried about old ass Matt Ryan. I ain't worried about that. The only other games that I'm not even worried about New England. The two games that I'm on, it's three games that I'm looking at. I'm looking at the Rams game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at the Dolphins game because people are sleeping on the Dolphins.
Well, you shouldn't, because their defense is unbelievable, especially
and Buffalo. That's it.
Josh Allen with those quarterback rankings. Should Josh Allen be ahead of Deshaun Watson in your opinion?
The only reason he is because he's in trouble.
Yeah, I tell you right now, the talent of Watson is unbelievable. I'm just so shocked by these allegations this year. I really am. I don't see him playing. I don't know.
No, I don't. Well, you know what? And they keep going back to the Ben Roethlisberger thing. Just go ahead and suspend him. Get it over with now.
It's so much worse than that. Yeah. I tell you why, Curtis, because of social media and the Me Too movement and just everything being out there. I cannot fathom the National Football League and Roger Goodell basically turning a blind eye and saying, you know what, we're just going to suspend you for 6 games. And I get it, they're allegations, but it's a lot of allegations.
They need to just go on and suspend him for this whole season.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree.
Just go ahead and, no matter what happens, go ahead and suspend him for the season and get it over with.
Yeah.
And but going back to my other predictions, I'm going out on a limb when I say this. I like the Cardinals this year.
Okay.
to win their division.
See, the Cardinals for me, and this is the problem for the Cardinals, Kyler Murray, he's got to stay healthy. He's got to be consistent. I'm not sure. When he got injured last year, they weren't the same team, but you're exactly right. You have J.J. Watt. They added to the defense. They have some defensive playmakers on that team. You know, Chandler Jones.
They need to run the ball.
Well, I agree with that. You got to, again, take the pressure off of your young quarterback. Who's your running back there? Who's the
my sleeper team is actually in the AFC this year, and I can't believe I'm going to say this. It's not the Dolphins, it's not the Colts, it's not the Browns. I'm actually going with John Gruden and the Raiders.
Oh, tell me why, because I got James Smith. I think he's still watching here, Mr. Troll Life himself.
The only reason because is, listen, I'm going to tell you something. That team was a good team last year.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I just feel like with all the draft picks, like John Gruden and Mike Mayock have not been getting, you know, doing the old, Al Davis, just drafting the best speed or the strongest guy in the draft. They've been actually doing their homework and drafting consistent, good players.
Right.
And Denver doesn't have a quarterback, so they're not going to be good.
Denver's terrible. They got Bridgewater.
I believe Bridgewater is going to start over Locke because Locke is. I don't think Locke's the answer. And I have faith in the Chargers, but see, I like Justin Herbert. I like that kid, but it's like the Chargers are jinxed. It's like they're cursed. It's like they can't get past the AFC Championship ever.
Well, I mean, you look back at their history, right? You have LaDainian Tomlinson, you have Phillip Rivers, all that talent, Antonio Gates, and you're not even able to compete for a Super Bowl. And then when you get there, you're knocked out in the first round by New England, various teams over the last 5 to 10 years here. So you're exactly right. They're cursed. But I tell you right now, Justin Herbert, 31 touchdowns, 10 interceptions.
How great did that kid?
I mean, if you're a Bucs fan, you watched it. You saw it before your eyes. I mean, he gave that Bucs defense everything you could want. And this guy's throwing off his back foot, which is a no-no for a rookie quarterback, and still completing passes to guys in stride. I mean, it's his arm strength. And anybody said his arm strength wasn't good, they need to turn on the tape. That guy's arm strength is good. His mobility, he's only going to get better. I mean, 31 touchdowns, 10 interceptions with better coaching last year. They most likely win some games. Joey Bosa, of course, has got to stay healthy. I mean, they have some weapons there. Austin Eckler.
I'm tired of the predictions of San Francisco going to the Super Bowl. I don't see it.
Well, Jimmy Garoppolo, I mean, that's your key. When does Trey Lance start? I guess that's the next question. Is he going to ever start? Is he going to start for this team this year? Are there defensive players like a Nick Bosa going to be able to come back and make an impact? But we know that, the 49ers were ravaged by injuries last year. We know it also comes down to Jimmy Garoppolo staying healthy consistently. If he can do that, you have the running backs, you have the talent positions there. I definitely think he got to coaching. I just didn't understand the Trey Lance stuff, but look, they drafted him. He'll be their quarterback eventually. Who knows if it's going to be this year.
I'm going to give y'all two more things before I go.
Sure.
The first thing is I heard Antonio Brown looks really good.
Well, I heard he is not. He's seen he hasn't practiced yet, so I have not heard.
But I'm talking about physically. They say he looks phenomenal.
Well, and that's a good thing because right, the Bucs get him the half of the year, and then he doesn't know the offense, and he makes an impact there down the stretch. I feel like that guy could absolutely have a big year this year, and I hope that Chris Godwin and Mike Evans don't get hurt. But if one of those guys does get hurt, I feel very confident in what the Bucs have in an Antonio Brown, a Scotty Miller, and of course a Tyler Johnson. And this kid, Jalen Darden, he's got got something. He's got something.
Yes.
Something.
Yes.
Something special. Yeah.
All right. My last thing I gotta say, and listen, when I watched that Aaron Rodgers rant the other day.
Yes.
I was in my bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
I had just got home from True Leaf, and I was partaking in my activities.
Of course.
I stood up and applauded.
Thank you. Well, I don't get it. Like, there's a blueprint in the National Football League, Curtis. If you take less money, and I was on the side of Rodgers in this organization, I don't like them drafting Jordan Love. I get it, it's business, but if you have a quarterback that's playing at the top of his level, you draft him a wide receiver, and who knows?
Could you imagine if they would have drafted Jordan Jefferson the year before, or that kid from Minnesota?
Absolutely. If you draft one of those guys and you do better, but instead you decide to piss off your quarterback, and then he's petty as heck. He admits to it when they draft Jordan Love to basically drinking himself drunk. And then you didn't think he was gonna hold it against you, and I didn't think he was gonna be in a Packer uniform. But really, all it's about is money. And then at the end of the day, here's a guy who hasn't done well in the NFC Championship game, although he's taken him there. Has that all been his fault? No, I think he was a little bit upset with the coaching decision to kick a field goal instead of go for it on fourth down. Look, hello, you got the MVP of the league. Go for it on fourth down. I get it. You have a defense that's fast and has shut you down all day long because your offensive line hasn't been able to block Shaq Barrett, but you got to go for it, don't you? And I think that upset him. And I think, all these decisions have been a culmination, a perfect storm of suckage for Aaron Rodgers. And basically he's trying to stick it to the Green Bay Packers. And I just feel like, look, if it's about money, if it's about this and everything else, fine. But that does not work. When quarterbacks get big time money, it hinders the team from having progress, keeping those teams. And that's why Tom Brady left New England after so many years, because he was taking less money. And all he asked the New England Patriots was, hey, give me some weapons that I can throw to. And they say, no, pound sand. And that's the reason why Brady's in Tampa. And there's a blueprint to it, Curtis. If you take less money, like some of these quarterbacks that are complaining, like a Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers, if you take less money, you give your team the opportunity to go after players that can help you in the long run. Good stuff, Curtis. Anything else?
And there was some. Okay, so just we need to go on and just tell Rodgers after Brady retires. I mean, he can just come to Tampa.
Everybody assumes that. Honestly, everybody assumes that he's going to be the next quarterback. You hear Deshaun Watson. I don't think maybe Rodgers, but I don't think Brady's done yet. And you don't.
No, I think Brady's got this year, maybe one more left.
One more year, and then Trask takes over somebody else. Good stuff, Curtis. Let me go ahead and give you that whoop from Ric Flair. Woo! Good stuff, my friend. Keep on calling the evolution of sports talk television.
Hey, man, I got you, brother.
Have a good day tonight, my friend. All right?
All right, man.
All right, there you go. See, the thrill is not gone. The guy's married. He's going on a date. What's he do? He calls in to the sports web. 727-255 0391 and 727-255-0391. I thought everybody's like, oh, Pete, you got to have guests in order to talk to. That guy's got to have a sports talk show. He's got to have guests to talk to. No, I don't. Sit here and talk sports all night long. Sit here and talk about work, dating, relationships, even though I don't know that much about it. Have a little bit of experience to it. And we can talk about football. Baseball and basketball. There was some hockey this week with the Lightning. We'll cover that more on Monday with Travis Fiedler, Rocket Sports and Entertainment. Don't want to give that away. Let's see. How about the Cubs fire sale? Yeah. Disappointing. Go Cubs, go. And all those players did go. Rizzo to the Yankees. Chris Bryant to the San Francisco Giants. Baez to the Mets. The Cubs and Mets making a trade. Cats and dogs living together. Yeah, it's been a sad time for the Cubs. Well, look, you got a World Series in 2016, right? You got to be happy about that, Christopher Cole. If you don't know my story, I grew up as a Cubs fan. And then my dad basically got on me and said, you got to be a Rays fan. I grew up as a Cubs fan. It's nice to see them win a World Series. But, of course, maybe they should have won 2 or 3 more with all that talent. Didn't happen. So now that's the way of the business. Joe Madden stepping aside, of course, him going to the Angels. That's the way the business is. Okay, I read that already. What's up, Peter? What's going on? Bucs time 12. How you doing? I'm playing because your mustache blends in with your lips. I don't know why you're looking at that, but okay. I did get shaved up tonight, though. Carlton Davis is maybe the most overlooked guy on the team of overlooked guys. He's not going to be overlooked this year, Bucs time 12. Not at all. Big year for Mr. Davis. He has an opportunity. He's going to be a free agent. He's going to play his ass off. He played well last year. Of course, people go back to the Hill situation. But remember, he led this team with interceptions, did he not? So he's got a great opportunity there. He's not that great. I don't like Davis. I don't think there's a lot of people that like Carlton Davis or Sean Murphy Bundy. But did you guys watch last year that back end play? Even with the injuries in that Packer game, they still played well. So, and then the Kansas City game. Did Patrick Mahomes go off in that game? Did they score a touchdown still? Oh, they didn't. Oh, how about that? What was it? I was on the plane the other day, headed to Michigan or coming home from Michigan, talking to a Chiefs fan. And of course, he was trying to talk trash to me because he knew I covered the Bucs. I told him. He's like, oh, how about those Chiefs? They're going to win it this year, huh? Really? You watch that game in the Super Bowl? This is the only touchdown for a Chiefs fan right now. You're touching down right now, sir, on the plane. That's it. That is it. He blows too many plays, does he? He had one bad game versus Tyreek Hill. I mean, how many corners in the league did that? You don't play Tyreek Hill one-on-one. Carlton Davis is one of the best corners in the league. He'll show that this year. I guarantee you. Saints are still the team to beat in the South until someone beats them. Disagree. Losing Michael Thomas, not good. I know what you're saying. I get what you're saying, but the Bucs disposed of them in the divisional playoff. Let's not act like they didn't beat the Saints. I get it. During the regular season, Saints usually win the division, but you lose Drew Brees. You don't know who your quarterback is. Michael Thomas is out. You have all kinds of losses on the defensive line. Lots of question marks about the New Orleans Saints. Not that way this year with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Not at all. So I get what you're saying, but come on. Don't play around. Where did Chandler Jones go? Nowhere, but he wants a trade, which I don't understand what Jones wants. I mean, you got an opportunity to be a part of a defense with J.J. Watt. I mean, put your ego aside. You barely played last year. You're already making pretty good money. You got an upcoming team with an upcoming offense. I mean, Arizona's everybody's darling, the media darling for that division. Why would you not want to stay there? I don't know what's going on with that situation. Pay Dak, break the bank. Well, they did. They broke the bank. And the problem is he's already hurt. So that may not necessarily be the best situation at the end of the day. I told you about this, about how I feel about getting a quarterback. And I get it. Every quarterback has value. But when you pay that quarterback to that point, it hinders the team. The team isn't able to go after the players they want. Case in point, Tom Brady throughout his career, even in this offseason, redoes his contract, you're able to re-sign everybody. Make no mistake about it, it's not that hard. I get it. Every quarterback's got to get paid. But what's the difference between 25 and 30 million? Or 40, 45 million? Well, the difference is you're not going to be able to keep those players around. By the way, Packers traded for Randall Cobb. I guess that helped out Aaron Rodgers, one of his friends. Hey, yo, what's going on, Sal? How you doing? Dating, yes. Wiseman once said, don't spend money on women if she's not your wife. Well, that's probably why you're watching my show right now. What is that? I never will subscribe to that. Come on, man. Stop with that. I wish we could have gotten Jarvis Landry as our future quarterback. He has more touchdowns last season than Jameis Winston. You know what? I'm not going to even respond to that. And Jeremiah says, great player as well as Simmons. Yes, Isaiah Simmons. Wow, what a comeback from Peter. Stunning. Love you, man. Love you. Love you, all you guys here. So, yeah, I mean, look, to me, the division is the Bucs if they want it. Of course, all this talk the last couple of days with training camp, who's going to stick out, who you're looking forward to. I like to see O.J. Howard play a full year. I like to see what this kid really has because we saw it early on last year until he got hurt. This guy could be a weapon. It can be. Sorry, Troy Polamalu. I had to do that to you. I had to. I just had to. I had to dunk on you. Boom, shakalaka! I had to do that. It's okay. It's all right. That's what happens here on the Sports Web. We're all friends. We all have a good time together. We all talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and various sports. So that's what we do here on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. 727-255 0391 at 727-255-0391. Plenty to talk about. We'll have Dennis Phillips next week. He's coming off a vacation. We'll have Travis Feely of Rocket Sports and Entertainment. Who knows? Just continue to tune in to the NexGen Sports Media Network, or we'll just make it simple. NSPN, and of course, I Love St. Pete. So with that being said, I think I'm just going to wrap it up for the night, guys. Thanks a lot for tuning in to the evolution of Sports Talk Television. We'll be back on Monday night with more fun and hijinks. Of course, thanks to the great Mr. Randy Grimes, former Tampa Bay Buccaneers center, his story. Go back and watch it. Subscribe on YouTube, Facebook. I don't think we have a Twitter site, and definitely go friend me on Facebook at Peter H. Blake, and do 3 things for me on this Friday night. Whether you're dating or not, you have an opportunity to tune into the evolution of Sports Talk Television. Bring your passion, bring your excitement. Just don't bring any nonsense. I'm your host, Peter Blake. Have a great night.
Stan Arthur here for the I Love St. Pete Facebook group. If you're a business owner looking to connect with tens of thousands of potential new local customers, you owe it to yourself to get enrolled in our Key Tag Rewards program. Since 2019, we've signed up more than 200 local merchants. Sponsor opportunities are available too, such as our group banner ad and even your own custom key tags. Just go to stpetekeytag.com, get enrolled, and get ready to get busy. stpetekeytag.com.